The times have changed, so has the delivery of news. We believe local news needs to be easily accessible. Hey, Owensboro, get with the times. Subscribe today at owensborotimes.com.
Hi, I'm Matt Castle with Castle Steel.
And I'm Daniel Dick with Daniel Dick State Farm.
And we're proud to partner with Owensboro Times.
It's never been more important than now to meet the candidates.
It's a vital part of our republic democracy for candidates to come forward and run for public office. I'm grateful for the individuals willing to run on the issues that are important to them and this community. Thank you for your willingness to serve the people of Owensboro.
Lastly, we want to thank you for joining us.
The town hall begins now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Owensboro Times Primary Election Town Hall. I'm Jake Boswell. I'll be moderating the event over the next half hour. First, we'd like to explain the format to you if you're watching online or if you're watching here in the audience in person. Candidates drew for their spot on stage upon arrival. They did that just a few moments ago with us. And they were given topics ahead of time, but as far as specific questions go, the first time you're hearing them today will be the first time they hear them as well. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer each of the questions we give them, and the order in which candidates respond will be reversed for each question. Each candidate will also be given 60 seconds at the end of our questioning for a closing statement. Now, the community's input was factored heavily into the formation of the questions to make sure that we address the most important topics to you at home and throughout Davis County and Owensboro, but just to make sure everyone's clear, guests are not going to be allowed to ask questions during the event here in person. Guests here who are in attendance, we're happy to have you. Please hold your applause until the forum for this race ends. So let's get to it. The fourth of our 9 segments today will be joined by the 3 candidates for Davis County Family Court Judge. Let's introduce you to our candidates, and then we'll get started. Joining us are Julie Hawes-Gordon, Jennifer Hendricks, and Thomas Vallandingham. Let's start with Ms. Gordon. You drew the first seat, and you get our first question. Family court can be very emotional or sensitive. How would you balance the mental and emotional aspects of a case with the rule of law?
Well, as Davis County's first family court judge, I've had those experiences, and it is very difficult. At times, it can be heartbreaking for everyone in the courtroom. We generally see folks on when they're going through a crisis, when they're going through some of the worst things that they could even imagine going through. What helps me is to know that I know the law, I know what resources are out there, what we can put into place, and I can apply the law fairly in an unbiased way and do the best that I can, allowing everyone to have their voices heard. And that allows me, to be able to go home and to know that I've done the best job that I possibly can. Family court is about loss, and there's a lot of loss. So we just do the best that we can and be there for our community.
Ms. Hendricks, same question to you.
Yes. I've been in private practice for 10 years, and over the course of 10 years, I've encountered numerous individuals who are dealing with exactly that, emotional and sensitive times during the most vulnerable times of their lives and at different stages of emotional and sensitive times. And I believe my knowledge and experience that I've dealt with all of these individuals over my 10 years, and I know the law. I'm well versed in the law. I will be able to take what I've been doing for 10 years and apply it the same way I always have, just on the other side of the bench.
And Mr. Vallandingham, the same question.
First, I want to thank everyone for coming out today and for Owensboro Times for hosting. I say there are really only 2 good days in family court: adoptions and reunification of family. Otherwise, it's neutral at best, and usually emotionally, it can take a toll. I'm exceedingly blessed with the ability to compartmentalize between work and personal life, and I think that helps. Treating everyone with basic human dignity allows you to broach these sensitive and heart-wrenching topics in a respectful manner, in a manner that's consistent with the law, because at the end of the day, we always have to comply with that law. And so by doing it, basic human dignity, knowing where your role ends and where your personal life begins is exceedingly important. And for personally, the way I deal with it is through prayer. Thank you.
We'll move on to our second question, and like we talked about when we laid out the rules at the beginning, we'll start now with Mr. Vallandingham and work our way down the table. What are your ideas for how to manage a long and growing family court docket in Davis County?
Well, certainly the addition of the second family court will help manage that caseload, and all of us would be thankful for that. The other, to me, most important aspect is following the law in a respectful manner as to when cases should and should not be on the docket. In my opinion, there was an inflation of the docket unnecessarily over the last 6 years that caused cases to have to be on docket repeatedly and unnecessarily, and not always in compliance with Kentucky statute. And there was an availability to us as professionals to be able to triage that docket. And that's not to say that you don't care about those cases and not to care about those people, but at certain points we have to let service providers take over. We have to let family members that are filling in as custodians take over and let those go until they are necessary to be brought back before the court.
And Ms. Hendricks, I'll restate the question for you. What are your ideas on how to manage a long and growing family court docket?
Yes, I think obviously with the passing of our second family court position, that will help us tremendously with our docket load. Family court, I practice doing a variety of things in family court. I don't just do JDNA here in Davis County. I do adoptions, I do custody, I do visitations, I do EPOs and DVOs. So there's a lot of aspects to family law that I deal with on a daily basis. Monday through Friday, I am in court. And with that, I think one thing that we can do for docket management is create a motion hour. There's a lot of attorneys, including myself, that we have very quick and short motions that need to be heard. Instead of putting them on a regular docket day where we're kind of jamming things in, we can have a docket hour where if it's 20 minutes or less, you can get in, you can get out, you know your issue, it's either contested or uncontested, but it's very brief, so we can get people in and out versus having to wait long periods of time to get hearing dates, and I think that will really help some of our docket control as well.
Ms. Gordon, same question.
Sure. So when I took the bench and when family court was created, we were starting from scratch, and we have a population in our county of about 103,000. One of the first things that we did was to make sure that we are case managing, because family court, that's part of family court is case managing, getting people together to try to see what can be resolved without coming to court, without actually taking up time on the docket. Another thing that we did from the beginning was to stagger our docket. So it wasn't a cattle call where everyone's set at 8:30 and everybody just shows up. It's staggered throughout the day. That way people can get back to their jobs more quickly and go on about their lives, and not as many people are forced to wait for as long. All of that being said, with the docket that we had, it was difficult. So we went and applied as an implementation site with the National Council, and they came in and did an audit. They chose us because of our innovation and our willingness to change and willingness to improve our systems. And so we're working from that and trying to consistently improve the docket.
Well, as we move along to our next question, I want to remind all the candidates that we have about 60 seconds for each answer, a question and answer, and that's to try to keep things moving to get the most we can out of this forum. And our next question is to you, Ms. Gordon. What methods would you suggest to improve court procedures and efficiency?
Well, as I said, I look to the community and to our stakeholders a lot of times to, two heads are better than one. So we had regular meetings, and we would sit down with members of the bar. We'd sit down with the cabinet and different stakeholders and get ideas. What are we doing well? What can we do better? And we came up with a lot of ideas from that, as well as from the National Council, and they come in and do trainings about how we can more efficiently manage our docket. So I'd say seeing it as a community effort, and being able to accept constructive criticism and being able to say, okay, well, this isn't working, let's try something different. That's a big part. Now, resources and time, there are only a finite amount of those things. With our second family court position, I'm excited about what lies ahead.
Ms. Hendricks, the same question to you.
Yes, and it kind of somewhat relates back to the second question that was asked, but I think it's important. There is lots of different puzzle pieces, I will call it, into the role of family court. There's a lot of people involved. There's clerks, there's staff, there's case managers, there's staff attorneys, and I think it's important as a family court judge to listen to all those people, to understand what's working for them, what's not working for them. And I'm very open-minded. I'm not an individual that believes my way is the only way. I think once we're collaborative with all of our staff, with all of our staff attorneys, with the clerks, we have a wonderful clerk system, but they know what they're doing, and they can then entrust in me to help them. And I think it's such a good time to collaborate together to build the best family court that we can.
And Mr. Vallandingham, I'll restate the question for
Thank
you.
you.
What methods would you suggest to improve court procedures and efficiency?
Well, first I would say I came from a well-ran family court when I was staff attorney for the 38th Judicial Circuit. We did not have issues of the backlogs and the delays that Davis Family Court has had since its inception. So I would be bringing over a lot of those procedures and mechanisms in place. The first is you have to have a well-trained staff that knows what they're doing, that knows how to handle juvenile dependency, neglect, or abuse dockets, civil divorce dockets, domestic violence dockets. So having a well-trained staff that is going to be able to assist the judge is crucial. Motion hours, as Ms. Hendricks has said, that will help organize the court's time better, where things that could be heard in less than 20 minutes could be heard on a motion day. Longer hearings that need an hour or 4 hours can be set at special times. And then when people do provide feedback, listen and adopt and apply those into the practice to make those improvements.
And we'll move on to our next question now. Mr. Vallandingham, you'll be the first to answer that one as well. How would your court work with community agencies that specialize in assisting families and children in need?
I think the two words that I would use is fair and firm. I will not come to the bench with any prior antagonistic notions regarding the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. I think I am fair with the Cabinet that they need to meet expectations. There are specific laws about when reports need to be filed and what they're supposed to be doing that they need to comply with. And in the event that they don't, there are reasonable ways of addressing that. There was a judge in Barron County that's done it twice this year by making public orders in those cases to show that there are some systemic failures of the Cabinet. However, that is not a personal animosity towards them. And so they will know that when they're doing their job well, I will be there to assist them and to listen to them. When they need to be called, then they will be called. But it's fair and firm.
And Ms. Hendricks, how would your court work with community agencies that specialize in assisting families and children in need?
Yeah, so I think you have to decompartmentalize this. Again, JDNA, juvenile dependency and neglect dockets, those are dockets where I consider it more a collaborative effort with people. It's not an adversarial system as it is like in a divorce action or in a custody action. So I think you have to separate the two. When you're dealing with community agencies in a JDNA action, I think it's important for Davis County that we utilize the resources that are available to us to help our families and individuals. So with JDNA, it is going to be more a collaborative effort, and I think it's important to do that. I think, again, with our stakeholders that are involved in JDNA, you need to be firm with them. There is certain rules, there is certain federal requirements, and we have to meet those. If we have the same standard with attorneys, we need to have it with other community agencies as well. Now, again, on the other side, when you're dealing with divorces and custody, I think it's important to reach out and utilize the agencies that are there to help better assist you in making your decision.
And Ms. Gordon, you have the same question. How would your court work with community agencies that specialize in assisting families and children in need?
I think collaboratively and transparently. I think that with all of our agencies, it is the line of communication needs to stay open. We had quarterly meetings with the cabinet and other agencies about, again, what's going well, what's not going as well, what can we do to help each other kind of keep the court moving and keep the docket moving and improve outcomes for families, which is why we're all there. Along those lines, we sent out, the cabinet said it would be helpful if we would send out what's going to be on the docket next week in terms of domestic violence, so that if there's a worker, they can be prepared ahead of time to be able to come to court. We also divided the units. Cabinet was, different workers are in different units, and we assigned each worker a week, or each unit a week, so they wouldn't have to sit there every week all day on a Tuesday. They had an assigned week, and their cases were all there, so they had more time to go and fulfill all of the many tasks that they have, because we all know the agencies are overworked, underpaid, and trying to help each other and trying to move forward is an important thing.
Let's move along to our next question. And Ms. Gordon, you'll be the first to answer this one. Whether it be tension between parties involved or with you, how would you deal with difficult or maybe adversarial people, including peers, lawyers, clients, or litigants?
Again, the biggest thing that I have found is patience and listening. A lot of folks who are in family court, it is on the worst day of their lives. And they have long felt, whatever's led up to why they're in family court, they felt like they're not heard. They felt like they aren't being listened to. And I think treating everyone that comes before the court with respect and empathy, and seeing yourself and seeing your own children and the children and the litigants that come before the court, I think that's vital. I think that patience is a big thing, and I think that's something that that's one of my strengths is having the patience to sit and listen to people's concerns and listen to the reason that they're there. And a lot of times that's what they need is to know that their voice is being heard.
And Ms. Hendricks, I know it's kind of a long question, so I'll repeat it for you too.
Sure.
Whether it be tension between parties involved or with you, how would you deal with difficult or adversarial people, including peers, lawyers, clients, or litigants?
Again, I've been doing this for 10 years. So I have been in a lot of high conflict, high tension cases, whether it be with my own client, whether it be with attorneys, or whether it be with the opposite party. I think it is important to realize that everybody in this system wants to have a voice, wants to be heard. I think it's important to listen and to be open-minded when people come before you. But I think it's also important to know when you're doing that, you have to take the testimony, the evidence that's presented before you, and apply the applicable law to their voice. But I think it's important to make sure that you are listening to both parties appropriately, giving them the time and respect that they need.
And Mr. Vallandingham, whether it be tension between parties involved or with you, how would you deal with the difficult or adversarial people that could be in court, like your peers, lawyers, clients, or litigants?
Well, blessed are the peacemakers, right? So conflict resolution is what practitioners of family law do. It is not uncommon to be in emotionally charged situations and have to be the person that diffuses that situation. As staff attorney for a family court judge, I often mediated divorces, child custody disputes where those tensions would run high. You've got to allow the space for parties to feel like they've been heard, but also have enough control to keep that in check and keep proper parameters and boundaries in place. And it's when we allow those parameters and boundaries to be overcome by emotion or overcome by a sense of wanting everything that isn't necessarily relevant to the case at hand to be heard, is when I think we run into issues and we run into docket problems. And then finally, as a high school umpire and soccer referee, I get heckled all the time, and I'm very used to it. So I'm okay with the abuse.
Well, Mr. Vallandingham, next question is for you. How would you maintain and build trust in the family court system?
Simply by doing the right things for the right reasons every day. Every case. I don't think it's a secret that there's been a hit to the trust of family court recently. And whoever the three of us is that sits in that seat next is going to have to rebuild that. Transparency as best as possible. If there's a if I have a conflict with a case, it gets disclosed on the record. As publicly as I can do it in confidential cases, I'll let people know this is my issue. It's not my case as the judge. It's the court's case, and I'm serving as that servant at that point. So if I have an issue that needs to be disclosed, I will disclose it. I'll recuse when necessary. Otherwise, I build trust by doing the right things for the right reasons, the right way, day in, day out, case in, case out.
Ms. Hendricks, how would you maintain and build trust in the family court system?
Yes, recently I was nominated and also received the Owensboro Living Best of Owensboro Best Attorney in the Gold Division. And I think that shows that the people of Davis County have chosen me and have trusted me to be one of the best attorneys here in Davis County. And with that, they have chosen to show that they trust in me. And with that, I would bring that same integrity to the bench. I think it's important to disclose your conflicts. I think it's important for people to sign waivers for conflicts, to have those in the record, to have those on the record, both. Because again, as a practitioner, sometimes you go back, and I'm not going to review 14 hearing tapes to see whether that waiver was done, to see whether that disclosure was done. But I want to implement a tracing process that if someone pulls that file, they know when and why I recused. And I think it's important to be transparent.
Ms. Gordon, you get the option to answer the question as well. How would you maintain and build trust in the family court system?
I think there are two things that I'd like to point on this. And the first is, one of the first things that I did when becoming family court judge was sign up for the Open Courts Pilot Project, which encourages transparency in the courts, opens up the courts so that anyone can come in and, subject to some limitations, anyone can come in, and it encourages accountability on all of our parts, everyone that comes before the court, including the judge. And I think that's vital. Accountability is the other one, and I think that accountability goes for everyone, including those within the court system. And over the past year, as Mr. Vallandingham brought up, there has been conflict, and that conflict stemmed from illegal actions that were brought to me as a concern. I took it to the appropriate authorities. They found that those actions did take place, and as a result, that person was no longer working within our courts because of the hundreds of breaches of confidentiality, privacy, due process. That person's no longer working with the courts. And in the ensuing year, it turned into a crusade to come up with anything in my personal life that she could possibly throw at. So.
Well, thank you guys for staying on time. For the most part, we actually have time to add an extra question, so we appreciate it. And Ms. Gordon, you'll be the one to get the opportunity to answer this question first. What is your general judicial philosophy?
Family court is a unique court, and one of the reasons I love it dearly is that it is a problem-solving court. So yes, at the very heart of my judicial philosophy is to know the law and apply the law fairly and impartially. With family law, it is much more complicated than calling balls and strikes because there are very few zero-sum games in family court. It's all, it's a complicated and emotional, complex combination of things that are brought to you. So I think part of being a family court judge is not only knowing the law, but also knowing your community and knowing what challenges your community is facing and what resources are there that you can put into place to address whatever challenges that the litigants have when they come to you. So I think, overall, I guess that would be is to front load services, know what those services are, and to try to help people move forward in the best and healthiest way possible.
Ms. Hendricks, what is your general judicial philosophy?
Yes, I think it's pretty simple. I think it's important to be ethical, to be respectful, to listen, to be open-minded, to hear the evidence and testimony that it's presented before you, to take the evidence and the testimony that's presented before you and applying the applicable law to it. I think it's simple.
Mr. Vallandingham, same question to you.
At the end of the day, even though family court does face some unique challenges, it's still a court. We are built on an adversarial system. So when I'm asked to make a decision, I've got to call balls and strikes, and I cannot tell them which pitch to throw. When I'm not, because of the uniqueness of family court, you do have the ability to encourage certain settlements, encourage certain alternative resolutions of cases. And if you set up your court in a way that establishes that precedent and allows them and encourages parties to reach those more uniquely crafted solutions to their problems, then I think you're going to get better results at the end of the day. When a judge is going to be more limited in what he can do or what she can do, whereas the parties, if you can encourage that settlement, they will craft a specialized solution to their problems, and at the end of the day will be better for it. And then relatability. I grew up a stone's throw away from Rolling Heights. The people that we serve, I grew up with them. I am one, to be honest, and I think knowing that will help provide better results.
So that ends the portion of the questions that we've put together for you guys. Now each of you will have 60 seconds to give a closing statement. And we'll move back from down at the end of the table this way. Mr. Vallandingham, your 60-second closing statement.
Thank you. First, I want to thank my wife and my parents and all those that have supported me this far. I grew up in a home that parents too poor to paint, too proud to whitewash, if you get what I'm saying. And to even be here is partly a miracle. I want to be Davis County's family court judge because I truly believe I'm called to this position. I think I'm the right person to restore faith and trust in that seat, a seat that can do so much good in our community, a seat that can be a beacon of light in our community that I think we've been hiding under a lampshade. Respectfully, I just ask that you vote for me on May 17th or earlier if you want.
Ms. Hendricks, your 60-second closing statement.
Yes. Again, I'm Jennifer Hendricks, and I'm running to be your next Davis Family Court judge. And I've done 117 EPO and DVO cases here in Davis County. I've done 880 divorces here in Davis County. I've done 1,815 JDNA and paternity cases. And I've done 281 adoptions in Davis County alone. I work primarily here. My office is here. Monday through Friday, you can find me at the courthouse. I've chosen to raise my family here. And I have a daughter who's 4, and I have a son that's on the way. And what do those numbers mean? Those numbers mean that I have dealt with each of those cases. I've dealt with each of those individuals. And they've impacted my life, and I've impacted theirs. And I want to continue that service. I have a passion for the law, and I want to do it on the other side of the bench.
Ms. Gordon, your opportunity for your closing statement.
Thank you. I'm Julie Hawes Gordon. I've been your family court judge since the beginning of family court, and built it from the ground up, and very proud of my staff, proud of my family for sticking with me for a lot of long nights and a lot of long days in court. And it has been a difficult year, but if I had it to do over again, I believe that accountability and what Mr. Vallandingham is saying, the faith in the judicial system cannot go forward if the people who are in a leading position or leaders in the judicial system are not willing to stand up and willing to rout out things that are corrosive within the judicial system. And as a result, it's been a really rough year. But I am ready to get back to work and excited about the second family court judgeship as well, because I've been your family court judge in the hardest of times, and I can't wait to see what we can accomplish moving forward.
Well, that wraps up our fourth session of the day. Thanks to everybody who took the time to watch at home, and thank you to each of the candidates for joining us here this afternoon. We also want to thank the Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame and Museum for allowing us to host the town hall here, and thanks to our presenting sponsors as well, Castlin Steel and Daniel Dick, State Farm Insurance Agent, and supporting sponsor, Mudd's Furniture. We'd like to leave you with one final message. That's to make sure to vote in the primary. You can do so right now in Davis County all the way up until Election Day, primary Election Day, Tuesday, May 17th, just a few days away. Thank you guys for giving us your time up here on the stage today. Ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for family court judge.